Hello. In this session, we will mainly talk about how to make use of pthread functions. So, if at all the threads are to be created, there is a library given by POSIX Threads, that is pthread, uh, which contains different functions that can be used to create multi-threaded programs. Now we'll try to see two functions in this session where we'll create a thread using the function. So first function is say pthread create, pthread underscore create. Now to understand or to use these functions, so we have to make sure that we include pthread.h. Now when we include pthread.h, ultimately next thing is what? So the function is to be called with the type to be pthread underscore create. Now if we try to see the different parameters that are added, let us try to understand this pthread function, pthread create function. As I stated, this function is used to create a new thread which allows concurrent execution of functions in separate threads. Now, like here, it one can see that there are four parameters. Okay, for this pthread create function. So first parameter is pthread underscore t, which is a structure which creates which we are using to create a variable called thread, and this will hold the thread ID of the newly created thread. Okay. Second parameter is a constant pthread underscore a double tr underscore t, which is an attribute variable. Now this specifies the attributes for the thread if at all we want to pass few. This can contain stack size, scheduling policy, etc. Now if we don't want to pass any attribute there, so we write null. Then that means it will take default attributes. And mostly we will be using null there rather than a second argument. Third argument is a pointer to a function that the new thread will execute. So the routine would be start routine. The function would be start routine. This function must take void star argument and should return a void star value. It is very, very important. So at the like when we write the function, we have to make sure that it takes care of this thing. Like it should take void star argument and it should return void star value. And last parameter is void star argument. This is a pointer to the argument passed to the start routine that we have given. Now, if we don't have any argument, then in that case you can pass null there. Now, whenever we are using pthread library functions, we have to make sure that we'll compile and link the functions using dash pthread. So whenever we try to compile say gcc dash m32 program name.c and program name.c contains a pthread functions or pthread library functions, then we have to make use of dash pthread at the time of compilation. Now, like as a return value perspective, 0 would be returned if thread is created successfully. And like if there is an error, then there would be an error code indicating failure, which is a non-zero value. Fine. So let us try to write a function uh, which will create a thread. Now, along with this pthread create, there is another function that we are going to make use of called as pthread join. So let us see what exactly this pthread join does. This function is used to wait for a specific thread to finish execution before continuing execution in the calling thread. It is similar to what we saw. When I say similar, I mean to say the idea perspective. Like when we created a child using fork, then when child code is executing, we always added a wait call rather, so that parent can wait for the child to finish the execution. So we will be using this thread join function rather in the similar manner. This function is essential for synchronizing the threads. So if that thread is terminated, then pthread underscore join returns immediately. So function prototype perspective, again, two parameters. First is again the thread ID, and second is rate value. This ID of the thread to wait for is to be added. So when you create a thread using pthread create, what are the variable that you used there? Try to use it here similarly. Okay. Now this should be a valid value, valid thread ID, which was previously created using pthread create. Now second parameter is rate val. This is a pointer to store the return value of terminated thread. If the thread function returns a value, then rate val will capture it. And if you don't need to use the return value, then one can pass null as a parameter. Similarly, on success, 0 would be returned. And like if error occurs, with example to say invalid thread ID or trying to join a detached thread, then in that case, non-zero value will be returned. So let us try, we will try to make use of these functions. Okay. So for that purpose, we'll write one simple code. Let us write this code. Fine. So we'll write Emacs my thread.c. So as usual, like we'll try to include files, header files, std.h hash include stdlib.h. So please have an habit of adding these libraries or header files as and when you are using some OS related codes. Mostly like whenever we want some standard functions to be called, not exactly with respect to OS related codes. So then we have to make use of header file as pthread.h. Now let us first type our main function. So this thread program that we'll be writing will try to print a simple message here. Fine. So like as an usual case, we'll create a thread ID. Okay. Variable, which this thread variable will hold the thread ID when a thread is created. So the structure is pthread underscore t. Then we'll declare one variable message. Okay. This will contain value, say hello, enjoy the month of March. Now, like we'll be calling that function, and if non-zero value is returned, then we'll try to display error using p error, and then we'll terminate using exit. That's why I'm directly writing it with if. So pthread. Now we'll use create function. Now we have to pass the variable so that it can hold the thread ID, so which we created above. Now we don't want to pass any attributes. So as I stated, we'll write there null. Fine. Further, we have to write print. Suppose this is my program. This is my function. Okay. Print message. And now I have to print. I have to pass the argument. So I will use, as it is a void function and argument should be void. That's why I will write void star and the variable that we declared here, like message variable. Fine. Then, like if this pthread doesn't return a zero value, that means it returns a non-zero value. Then in this case, we'll try to print error using p error, pthread create failed to execute. Fine. And then to show that there is a failure, so we'll give exit one. Now, like when this, suppose this thread is created successfully, then we have to wait the thread to execute. So that's why we have to write thread join. We'll write the thread ID, and then we don't want any return value from the thread. So we thread join null. Then return 0. Now we are using a print message as a function, okay, to like a message, print a message in the thread. So we have to write now that print message function. So let us, as it is of void type, so void star print message, and its argument is again void star. So let us say argument. Now we'll declare, because we have to take value, we have to translate, like if I want to print a message, then I have to make use of printf, say for example, and printf takes character string. That's why we'll take the variable to be on the similar manner. Fine. So we'll define a variable, okay, as a message, and we'll typecast it to char star, and then argument. Fine. Then we'll simply use printf thread value printed is percentage slash n, and then our message, okay, the variable. Now we don't want to return anything, so that's why simply write a return null. Now save this code. Okay. Now compile. So if I write only dash m32 and my thread dot c, then you will see, like right now we haven't added anything. So if I create, this is printed. Correct. You can also add, like in some cases, if it doesn't work, then add this pthread library. As I added that library earlier, so it is showing me this. Okay. Now it printed, but it is very difficult for us to really see whether it is executed by thread or not. So to display the threads, we'll write ps. Okay. So first of all, write ps-ejh. So now as a dot out finished execution, so one may not be able to see this. This is PTS0. So what we'll do is we'll make change in the code. We'll add simply one scanf statement. Let us say we declare variable here ch. Scanf %c underscore ch. Similarly, okay, let us see if it works. Now it is waiting. So we fire this. So one may see there is only a dot out. But on what basis we are saying that thread is created? Correct. So for that purpose, see what is the PID for this. So 22794. Okay. So simply write this command and add it here. 22794. You will see, like in this case, the thread which was created already executed. So we are going to write ps-t here, like it would be adding spid. This is thread ID added. So for process, this is a thread created. But now one may see only one of them is running because it is working in the main earlier thread. Okay, so we'll write that function, scanf function, about here as well. So before returning null, we'll try to write scanf %c %ch. Okay, now let us compile. Now we'll execute. Okay, now let me display this again. So what is the PID here? Again, 22844. So here I will write 22844. Now you will see that, like this is a PID. For this PID, a thread is created, and this is the thread ID. Okay, which is a thread created. This is the main program which is creating a thread. So you may see like same PID is given, but threads are created. And this is how rather the code works. So now if I give input here, say for example C, okay. Now as I added that one more, let us include this PS dash EJH. Now 22867. Okay, here let me write C. I have given character and let me press enter. So gone because we added two characters there for scanner. Like one is this D and then enter key it was taken. So even if I take this EJH, A dot out is gone. And this is how rather a thread creation function and thread join function works. So what we saw was this code. Here what we did, one more time I will repeat. We included these three header files. Okay. Then we wrote main. We are adding a variable with the thread structure, pthread underscore t with the variable to be thread. So here, as this program was responsible to print a message in thread, that's why we added a message. Then we gave call to pthread create. So four arguments are there, correct? So first is thread ID, second is attribute list, third is the function to be called, and fourth is the value or a parameter to be passed to the function, okay, which is to be executed by the thread. Now, suppose if it fails, if it returns non-zero value, then we are displaying this error. Now, right now, we haven't done anything to get this error, but at all, like suppose something fails, then it would be displaying this error and exit one. Then we added this scanf only to wait and see like whether the threads are created or not. So we actually expecting there the character to be inputted. And that later pthread join because we want that thread to finish the execution. That's why we have to write this pthread join. Okay. And thread ID, what are the thread that you used here? Thread ID, it is to be added. And second is return values. So right now we are not returning anything from there. That's why null and return zero. Now in the thread calling function, we wrote print message. It is necessary that it should take void as a return and void as an character, void as an argument. So we converted that void argument to a character by making use of typecasting. Okay, then we printed that message just and then we return null. And then we compile this program using GCC program name.c -m32 and like if required, you can write dash pthread. Right now on my machine, it worked well without that thing, without writing pthread because I added that earlier. Thank you.